is the ritual we're about to offer, the flower ceremony. Flower ceremony is immortalized in many ways. It's so famous to our faith that the children's book, Unitarian Universalism, is a really long name, has several pages devoted to it, because thinking about how do we express our faith in the essence, this ritual is part of it. The tradition of flower ceremony started in 1923 in the Unitarian Church in Prague, which at the time was one of the largest in the world. It was imagined by Reverend Pulpit and Maja, his wife, Kapik. Created during a time of xenophobia and demagogues, the ceremony says that spirituality and life should be about something that is not division and hatred and nationalism, but lifting up the gifts that we share, the uniqueness of each of us, the distinctiveness, and yet the connections that we all share. It is winter time. It is, in some ways, an unusual time to have a flower ceremony. But given all that is happening, it feels like perhaps you too, I needed a refresher in the faith, a recommitment moment. In 1948, Reverend Carl Haspel, who is Chopik's successor, wrote a letter to the First Unitarian Society of Brooklyn, our sibling congregation, because Brooklyn was one of the first congregations in North America to adopt this ritual practice. Now it's used in almost all of our congregations in North America. Reverend Haspel said to the Brooklyn Society, "You do not know how happy we are to learn that you plan to have a flower service. For on that day we also shall have a service. It would be the 26th anniversary of the first service held here in Prague." Dr. Chopik realized the need for symbolism in religion, but felt a reason for new symbols. He settled on flowers, which he called the gift of God. There has never been war or oppression made with flowers. We give them at weddings and to our dead. We give them whenever we wish to express love and sympathy. We shall be thinking of you. So this winter, we have flowers from New Jersey that come to us in this sanctuary now, a reminder of our uniqueness and also our connection to a vast tradition affirming goodness and mercy and justice. I invite you to raise up the flower you received as you came in. And if you didn't receive a flower, raise your hand. We'll make sure you get one. I'm going to offer a blessing that comes from Dr. Chopik in translation. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these thy messengers of truth. May they remind us amidst diversities of knowledge and of gifts to be one in desire and affection and devotion to the holy will. May they remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of our most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Amen. In the spirit of the original ceremony, where people would bring flowers and then leave with a different flower, we're going to just listen to some music for a minute or so, and I invite you to exchange your flower with a neighbor as a gift. time in our service where we would sing our young people into religious exploration. I do not currently see any 10-year-olds in this space. They might be on Zoom, in which case I'm waving hello. But we will sing them a blessing instead. So let's sing Go Now in Peace wherever the youth are. We're going to get a blessing from us. Number 413 in our great hymn book, Go Now in Peace. Is a community of communities. We're able to do the work and ministry and exploration that is the Unitarian Church of Staten Island because of amazing volunteers and leaders. I invite one of those leaders up right now, this wonderful human being who is going to tell us about the work of the membership committee. Thank you, Dave.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dave Michaels from the membership committee. First of all, I want to welcome you all to this Bring a Guest Sunday, and hopefully you're all aware. If you're not, I'll have a wonderful lunch. We usually just kind of have bagels and snacks, but it's an actual lunch that we're going to get to enjoy together. So we invite you all to join us, and just looking forward to sharing food with you all. And in order to raise funds for congregation equipment and planned projects, we will be raffling a winner's choice sermon topic for Reverend Lawlor to use in a service this year. So raffle tickets will be available for a donation of $2 per ticket during the Brand Guest Luncheon, and the winning ticket holder will get to choose a sermon topic brought to us by the wonderful Reverend Daniel Lawlor. We also have a large offering of upcoming membership of committee-sponsored events, so bear with me, and hopefully some of these will maybe you didn't know about them and you want to come check them out. Spiritual Film Nights in the Fellowship Hall, Thursdays. The next two will be January 15th and 29th from 7 to 9 p.m., facilitated by Luca Kaczmarek. Hopefully I have your name right, Luca, if you're online, your last name. And be on, pronunciation. And be on the lookout for more film nights in February. Monday night Zoom Women's Gathering online from 7:30 to 9 p.m., facilitated by Kathy Santo. Women's in-person meeting, I think that's relatively new, Tuesday evening, January 20th, and every third Tuesday in the library, facilitated by Ellen Simonetti. Monday night men's in-person meetings in the library with a Zoom option. Those are every 3 Mondays. There's no facilitator. I feel like it's Tom, but maybe we're equal and we're all one. Game on Sunday, February 1st, 1 to 3 p.m., and every first Sunday in the Fellowship Hall. It's like board game time. There's an upcoming Getting Connected meeting with Reverend Daniel following the March 8th service, which is designed to help folks who are interested to get more connected with the church, just to find out how you can do that. The Community Spring Festival and Earth Day celebration inside and outside our building on Saturday, April 25th, for which the committee is requesting volunteers. Please contact us if you'd like to help. And finally, the membership committee is planning an online auction to be held within the next 2 months to raise funds for church equipment and membership needs, as well as a portion to purchase food for the food pantry. The membership committee is requesting donations of smallish boutique items. It's like some online auction, and then Andrew knows a lot about this. He does it for himself, so he's told us about it. So smallish items, because they're going to be mailed to people who get on this platform and to purchase these items. either gently used or new items that might otherwise have been regifted. Please contact myself or any one of the membership committee members with any questions or to volunteer or donate. Those other members, besides myself, are Bonnie, Kathy, Nancy, Andrew, and Robert, and hopefully I haven't left anyone out. So thank you all. I don't know, do we ever do this? I feel like to say any questions. I just hit you with a lot of stuff. No? Okay, cool.
I have to adjust this microphone. This Dave is so tall. Can you guys hear me? Now is the time in our service for sharing joys and sorrows. We come together in community to share with one another, to support one another, and to celebrate with one another. We bear sacred witness to each other in this honored ritual. For some of us here today, this has been a week of life-changing joy that needs to be lifted up in this worship. For others, this has been a time of deep pain and sorrow that needs to be shared to make the burden. If this has been such a time for you, I invite you to raise your hand and to briefly tell us a joy or sorrow in your life you would like to lift up before the community. For those who are joining online, we invite you to type into the chat your joys and sorrows, and Ben will read them aloud. You may also simply take time to reflect and listen and to honor the joys and sorrows in the silent sanctuaries of your heart. Now is the time for sharing and honoring joys and sorrows. Does anybody have any joys and sorrows to share?
I'm Mike Stein, and I have a couple of joys. One is that we just returned, Maureen and I, from Mexico, where we visited our son and daughter-in-law. And we had an absolutely wonderful time with family. We spent time at a spa together, and it was just absolutely joyous. And we are very happy that we were able to do that for all of the kids, and we hope that we can continue to do that. Additional joy is when I was at the social justice meeting the other day, yesterday. I was encouraged by how much people are engaged and continuing to fight the right fight.
Hi, I'm Randy. I just, Friday, coming to work, I tripped over the rug in the lobby, fell flat on my face, and felt fine. And then by the afternoon, I had a good case of whiplash and the arthritic neck I've been getting physical therapy for, so wonderful. And my hard drive died. Hopefully they can recover something. They've sent it out. And Tuesday is my 75th birthday.
Are there any more joys and sorrows?
Thank you. I'm Marge Becker, and I have a joy. I broke my leg a couple of weeks ago. I slipped in my kitchen somehow and went down the wrong way. But the joy around it is it was only a hairline fracture, no need for surgery, no cast, and I was able to, really, I could walk around like almost normally now. So that's really good. I was really fortunate there. On the sorrow side, I mean, I can't watch the news anymore. It's so horrible. Every day there's new outrageous things. And it should drive, should bring us together to resist. Where's resistance?
So in the department of geezer people falling and hurting themselves and doing that kind of stuff, I haven't done that. But I am always reminded for the unfortunate people who do that I'm in that same Geezer neighborhood. So I went for evaluation to PT, found out I'm actually pretty good, balancing, all that kind of stuff. I have a little weakness in my left flexor, so I'm going to do like a little PT routine, and then I'll probably figure out other things to do. But anyway, I just encourage those of us who are prone to doing things like falling down and getting hurt, so that all of a sudden, your life is good one day and the next day, not so much. So just try to stay in front of like all the little health challenges as we get older. So I just share that bit of wisdom. And as it's already been expressed, the only way we can get through these times is like in community and solidarity with each other. So cheers to all of us that are doing whatever our capacities allow us to do. Call, go, stand up and shout out, and we're all doing it in solidarity with each other, and I'm trusting that that's messaging that's really resonating with just about everybody else out there.
Any other joys and sorrows?
I had two joys, John Adrian, I had two joys this week. I saw my dentist on Wednesday, and after a careful examination of my mouth, he declared it boring. There was so little plaque buildup. He scraped a little bit and he polished my teeth and sent me off. Yesterday, I saw my cardiologist. And I asked him about an implantable device that would permit me to avoid having to take Eliquis, blood thinner. And he said that very possibly, with the weight I've lost over the last year and a half, I may no longer have atrial fibrillation. And he gave me a monitor, which is there on my chest for 2 weeks, and that is a constant electrocardiogram. After 2 weeks, I will remove it, I will ship it to somewhere in the Chicago area where they will read it and report to him. And so I may end up being without atrial fibrillation and off Eliquis, which will make me very happy.
Any other joys and sorrows? Nothing in the chat? I just wanted to share a sorrow, and it's a sign of these times. My mom's weekend aide is from Burkina Faso, and I've already talked about how her family had to go back. Her husband was afraid of ICE. Anyway, her working papers have expired, and she's submitted weeks ago to get them renewed. But in the situation we're in, it's unlikely that they're going to be renewed because it has to be the federal government approve it. So this lovely woman who, very hardworking, very nice lady, she's going to have to go back home where there's no work and no jobs, where it's a very hard life, even though she's willing to work hard here because the federal government doesn't want people from Africa here. So that is my sorrow for her, for my mom, and just, society as a whole. We take this moment to honor the joys and sorrows that remain in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, and for those outside our walls who are searching for a place to bring the wholeness of their lives and be received with love. Now is the time we will pause for contemplation and meditation. I will offer a prompt to focus our meditation and then sound the singing bowl. At that point, I will invite you to begin the meditation with 3 deep breaths. After a few minutes, I will sound the singing bowl again to mark the end of our time. Today's meditation prompt is a poem from Mary Oliver and is as follows. Love yourself, then forget it, then love the world. Now is the time in our service where we take an offering. We know it is the gifts of all of us that help support our ability to thrive and gather. For those attending in person, we will pass the collection plate. Please use the envelope you'll find in the pew, write your name, and indicate if your offering is part of your pledge or is a donation. For those online, links and instructions will be posted in the chat. You can mail us a check or donate through the PayPal giving page on our website. Give as generously as you can. Our offerings will be gratefully received. Wonderful. Please join us in singing hymn number 55 in your gray hymnal. Please stand as you are able.
Now is the moment in our service for a time of contemplation, meditation, prayer. Spirit of life and love, bigger than the universe, smaller than a grain of sand, be with us today. Accompany us in all that we may encounter. Give us the courage to speak truth and to show up in difficult moments. Help us to make that phone call, to check on our neighbor, to look at what is happening around us and be honest. May we find the strength to act and move and be present and kind and loving, even in midwinter, even when it feels like our country is in midwinter. May it be so. As you know, I find some healing every now and again by going back to those ancient stories and ancient scripture to disrupt our day-to-day lives, my day-to-day life, whether it is a Buddhist prayer, a voice of the prophets, even a bit of Christian scripture. Sometimes these ancient voices speak across time and shake me up and make me encounter what is happening in our world a little differently. There's an old letter, the first letter of John, that says, quote, "Those who say, 'I love God,' and hate their siblings are liars. For those who do not love a neighbor for whom they can see, cannot love God, whom they have not seen. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us." If we love one another, God lives in us. Our Unitarian ancestors all around the world had a conviction that the faith that we affirm was not bound by a test. You didn't have to agree to a certain set of words or framing of prayer or ritual to be considered part of the community of faith. The Reverend Mark Morrison Reed said, quote, "Not a mystery to this community and to each other." Those are modern words, but it speaks to what over the centuries Unitarians and Universalists have testified to, that we are not separated. Even by the words we use in prayer or the houses of worship we gather in or political affiliation, there is a deeper connection that every human being on the planet shares with the source of life. Dr. Marcos Andre says that in our tradition we affirm that no religion, no philosophy has a monopoly of truth. And if that is the case, we can learn from teachers all over the planet. We can learn from our neighbors just as much as from a poem from the other side of the world. And that means the dignity of the souls that create these works of art and encounters and everyday living can challenge us to transform and grow. In the United Kingdom, they say our Unitarian ancestors were those who refused to conform to the state churches. And they would meet in what were called dissenting chapels, usually on side streets, never in city centers. But these dissenting chapels were places where people would advocate slowly over time, quietly as they could, and sometimes loudly when it was possible, for greater civil rights. We are not the first people who affirm these ideals of a broad spiritual life, to encounter evil, organized oppression, violence. Those who assert there is only one way. There is only one way to be a good citizen, or one way to be a good religious teacher. Our Eastern European ancestors, at the very beginnings of what is now the global Unitarian movement, they said that violence has no place in religious life, and anyone who asserts so is offering a demonic distortion of a sacred mystery. They said the word should be preached freely, and no one, neither the preacher nor listener, should come to harm on account of what they profess. In 1995, which in some ways might seem a world away from the moment we're in, a gathering of Unitarians, Universalists, and Unitarian Universalists all around the world came together to try to say, as we look at this not yet born 21st century, what do all of our different faith traditions, our sibling Unitarian and Universalist and Unitarian Universalists around the world, what do we have in common? And they offered this statement. They said, we affirm religious community based on liberty of conscience and individual thought in matters of faith, the worth and dignity of every person, justice and compassion in human relations, responsible stewardship of the earth's living system, and a commitment to democratic principles. They asserted, we declare our purposes to be to serve the infinite spirit of life, the same one that Reverend Chopik prayed to, the infinite spirit of life and the human community by strengthening the worldwide Unitarian and Universalist faith, to affirm the variety and riches of our living tradition, to facilitate mutual support, to promote our ideals, and to provide models of liberal religious response to the human condition, which uphold our common values. If you visit different Unitarian historic heritage congregations in our movement, especially the older ones, sometimes you'll find on the wall one of those ancient scriptures that says, what does the Lord require but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly? Those are ancient words. They rhyme with what was expressed in 1995, and I think what challenges us in all of our faith, all of those of open faith today. The Unitarians in the UK face rising populism and anger and anti-immigrant sentiment. The Unitarians in India are facing nationalistic politicians and the destruction of sacred environments. The Unitarian Universalists in our country are facing challenges to our democratic norms and espoused values and ideals. All over the world, people of gathered communities are facing distinct and related challenges in this moment. And yet, before the 21st century was born, a group of our ancestors, many of whom are still alive, came together to assert that in this century ahead, we will affirm a liberal religious response to the human condition. We will emphasize the dignity of every person we encounter. We will assert that democracy is religious and holy. I think about the Unitarians in South Africa, in Cape Town, who were in one of the few mixed neighborhoods, integrated neighborhoods in Johannesburg, before the apartheid regime came to power. And their decades-long struggle much of their neighborhood physically destroyed because it was sexist, and they still light a chalice. Each of us is called to discern how we respond in this moment. And some of us are going to go to a vigil tomorrow in front of Representative Nicole Maliotakis' office in honor of the life of Renee Nicole Good, joining people of goodwill and houses of worship from across Staten Island to remember her life and the life of the dozens of people who have been killed or died in ICE custody in 2025. We don't have a creed as Unitarian Universalists. We don't say you have to pray this way or you need to do this ritual or you can't join, but we do offer covenants and promises. Promises grounded in the dignity of one another and a commitment to show up, to offer a liberal religious response to the human condition. Every week, this congregation, I think back to the 19th century, has affirmed that we seek truth and honor the spirit of love. That's why we gather and unite. One of our siblings in faith, Ashley Horan, Reverend Ashley Horan, lives in Minneapolis. She lives around the corner from where Renee Nicole Good was shot this past week. She told the religious news service, I'm here with my neighbors out on the street, supporting one another, speaking up, because this is our city. And this is how we show up. We've always taken care of each other because we know the government is not going to do that for us. She asserted, my Unitarian Universalist faith is the belief that every human life has inherent worthiness and dignity, and that we are inextricably interdependent as humans and as neighbors. The combination of those two things means there's not actually a question about showing up like that. In fact, Reverend Horan said the greatest form of sin is feeling like we are separate from other people. The greatest form of false consciousness, the greatest lie, that we are not connected. In our tradition, people come from a variety of religious heritage, variety of walks of life. Naval officers and anti-war demonstrators are part of the Unitarian Universalist tradition. But they're anchored in a commitment to pursuing peace and seeking human dignity. We do that in so many different ways, in so many different contexts. But what I've found is that alongside our outside activism and the activism in our congregation walls, we need to make time for spiritual practices, or we will burn out, and we will get cranky, and we will be mean to one another when the world is hurting. Reverend Greta Crosby, whose beautiful meditation we all said this morning about winter having something to teach us. She was an activist in her ministry in Kansas, in Washington State, in Virginia. The only reason she didn't join the Selma marches was because she was nursing her child. In every congregation she was part of, she worked to create memorial funds in honor of those who died in the Selma protests, and encouraged her congregations to have annual celebrations to honor local social justice organizations. And she also had a deep meditative practice attentive to poetry and spiritual life. And whether humanistic or deeply spiritual, the space of encounter with a poem, with an ancient text, with a prayer, with a small group like our spiritual growth circles, just encountering and being with one another to have a different type of experience, it can be healing and transformative as we seek truth and honor the spirit of love. As I look at 2026, this year that's not even 15 days old, where we worry about war and rumors of war, the attack on Venezuela, the suffering of veterans, the death and murder of American citizens, trying to protect the constitutional rights of all people. We need to be grounded. The forces of oppression are organized and want people to be sad and disconnected and isolated. We are joining our ancestors in a countercultural action of asserting that love is the center of spiritual life. And we're joining houses of worship and people of goodwill around the world, trying to cultivate nurturing alternatives for this still unfolding 21st century. We are now closer in 2026 to 2050 than we are to 2000. What will the journey to the middle of this century be like? And how can we nurture spaces to nurture our spirit and protect one another and our values in this world? Thank you for nurturing this space and being part of the generations who have advocated and nurtured a liberal religious response to the human condition. Even winter has something to teach us. Thank you.
I invite you to join me in extinguishing our chalice. You can find the affirmation in our order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. For these we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
The hymn number is misprinted in your bulletin. It is number 163 in your gray hymnal. For the earth forever turning, number 163. Please rise.
Reverend Crosby said, we need each other. Our many ways of seeing that together we may rejoice and see clearly and find the many keys to abundant life. May we rejoice and see clearly and accompany one another as we find that way to the abundant life. May it be so.
That was wonderful. So ends our service. Please join us in the parish hall for lunch.
See you there.